Hey guys, Scott here, and today we're going to talk about survivor items from best to worst. This is just sort of a little fun, not very in-depth video. The thing is, I wanted to make this very simple, because yeah, there's actually a bunch of different variants of items. Like, you can say, obviously, a broken key is going to be a lot worse than a skeleton key or something like that. So I know you can have a lot of different types of items within the items themselves, but I just want to go over like the basic concept of the item. So I'm just going to say like the best item in each category and go from there, because I don't want to overcomplicate things. I think once you start trying to get too in-depth with that, you start having like, oh, well, this one's a bit better with this add-on, but this one's better. Like, it gets too much. So I didn't really want to go super in-depth with it. This is just a fun little list, so why not? For the best items a survivor can bring, medkits, in my opinion, are the strongest. And it's very, very close between this and keys. But the thing is, medkits will almost always be used in a match. Keys are not always able to be used. Sometimes you kill the person with the key. Sometimes they can't find a hatch. When all the cards fall into place, then the key has the potential to be more devastating than the medkit. But I put medkit in first because it is universally useful at all times, even against killers with one-shots. A lot of killers with one-shots, you can still force them into positions where they have to M1 you. So being healthy reduces the ability for the killer to snowball. The killballer. New killer coming out. It reduces the ability for the killer to snowball quite a bit if everyone is always healthy. And a lot of what makes chases not too bad to abandon is the fact that the killer would either break a pallet or injure the survivor and let them go somewhere else. Now, when that survivor's injured, they have a much greater chance of going down fast in a future chase, or they can just, spend the time healing. Either way, they're not doing gen. So it's what makes those chases that don't end up in your favor still worth something. When you have a really good med kit and like even botany knowledge on top of that or something like that, or make it or anything like that, when you can heal faster than the killer can hit people, that's when you start really, really destroying the pressure that the killer has. And I really fear nothing more nowadays than 4 really good med kits on a killer without a one-shot, because that is just like... Or even if I'm playing Oni and they have 4 good medkits, oh, it's such a bitch to win those matches because they can just heal themselves up to full so frequently. And that is the main reason why I think medkits are the best, because they are universally useful and they will almost always see use in a match no matter what. So they have the most potential to reduce the killer's pressure a significant amount. Next, I would say in a very, very close second is keys, of course. Obviously, I don't even have to explain why, because they can end the game before it's supposed to end. That is extremely strong. Keys are like one of the few items in the game that get better. They get stronger as the killer does better in the match, which is weird, which is why keys terrify me, because basically the more people I kill, the more chance that the remaining people will be able to use a key and get out early. And so the better you do, the scarier the key becomes. Now, there are a couple of counters to it, like if you use Franklin's on a key, it's pretty hard to find it again unless the survivor remembers exactly where they were. Keys are pretty hard to see on the ground. On top of that, you can just straight up kill the person that actually has the key. If someone has multiple keys, or if a team has multiple keys, usually I will bring Franklin's. That's probably the only time I will ever bring that perk, is if a team has multiple keys, because you gotta get that shit out of their hands. Like, if there's just one guy, you can just focus him down and they're probably not gonna go get the key. I mean, they might, but that's probably the only time I'll actually run Franklin's. But for the most part, keys just enable you to leave early, so they're extremely close to medkits, in my opinion. The only thing that makes them not better is because you cannot use them every match. The keys add-ons, though, Blood Amber, I think Blood Amber Skeleton Key is the strongest thing a survivor can bring into the lobby, more than any other thing in the game. Blood Amber Skeleton Key renders even the best killers just, you got a whole W. Because if they can watch you through the wall, you have 0 mind games. And a killer that has 0 mind games sucks. Like, you're not going to be able to down anybody. It's just going to be a rough time. And that's what all the good killers rely on to get downs quicker at things like TL walls and, jungle gyms and things like that. If the survivor can just see you through the wall, you can't do any of that. You have no potential to mind game. Blood Amber, insanely, insanely strong. And I'm really glad more people don't use them. But if they did, I'd start using Franklin, so not that big of a deal. So keys, very, very good, just under medkits in my opinion. Only thing that separates them is they're not used every single match, even if you do bring them in. Commodious Toolbox. I'm just going to say Toolboxes in general would be the next. I think prior to their nerf, they would have been number 1 above medkits in my opinion, but they've got a pretty sizable nerf, and although they do repair things a bit faster, they go away very, very fast. So you can still speed up a gen by a very, very large amount with 2 med kits working on the same gen. You can do a gen in 30 seconds with even just 2 people, which is pretty nuts. But then they're gone. Then they're used up and that's it. So prior to the nerf, I definitely would have said they were the strongest things because you can't stop them really from being used. At the beginning of the match, if everyone splits up and they all use their own toolboxes, you can't stop that. You can't be in 3 places at once. So they're going to get the use out of their item no matter what. Even a med kit might get use or not get use if like you tunnel them off the hook or something like that. But the fact that they were nerfed so much makes it so even though they all get to use them, it's still not super detrimental anymore, which is good because a Commodious toolbox with like wire spool and the swivels was just ridiculous in how much time it could save people. And that thing could last you like the entire match. So probably one of the best changes they've made in nerfing toolboxes. They're in a pretty decent spot now. They give you a pretty good burst of speed, but you can't use them the entire match now. So you have to kind of use them a bit smarter. Usually saving them towards the end is actually kind of smart because you can finish things faster when less people are alive. Killer might not expect it. So toolboxes still very good, but not as ridiculously broken as they used to be. Next would be maps. Maps get a bad rap for being like a meme item or a meme item. It's just like the burrito. It's not a very big deal. But low-key maps on maps like Larry's or the game or Hawkins or Midwich or any of those claustrophobic maps where it's actually hard to find gens, they're actually really useful. Like, I'm in a non-joking manner, having a map on Larry's is awesome because even the best players in the world don't know the random locations of every generator in every map. They just can't know that because there's so many possible spawns. You can't know which one spawned where. So maps actually really help out a lot on those maps. And that's one of the best things about those maps for Killer is that survivors take so long to find additional generators. Maps make it so that's not a problem anymore. Maps basically act like multiple perks in one too, like Deja Vu and stuff like that. So overall, they're pretty good. Plus, the best add-on in the game is that Beam of Light, because as you're getting chased, you can just like bzzz, and just leave like a giant path. I know the Killer can't see it, but it's very fun to do. So maps are still actually decently useful. Not incredibly impactful. You can't do things faster with them other than find gens, but it's good for finding gens. Also, for finding totems, things like that. You know, we're starting to talk about putting on add-ons on the map now. But for finding totems and things like that, even traps, where hooks are, where basement is, even hatch if you have that add-on, it has a lot of, decent uses. So all these items so far, like they're all very useful to bring in. And when you throw some add-ons on the map, they actually become very useful too, especially with the crystal bead, I believe, that lets everybody see what you're looking at. You can highlight all the totems immediately and it kind of destroys things like NOED and hex builds and stuff like that. So that's actually pretty good. Not too much of a meme in my opinion. The worst items you can bring, in my opinion, are flashlights. Flashlights are, in fact, to me, worse than no item. Because when a team brings flashlights, they're going to want to get flashlight saves. That's usually how it goes. Now, I could see hypothetically a team that brings 4 flashlights and no one ever blinds them, like no one ever goes for blinds, would be a bit, scary. I mean, at that point, who cares what you even have because you're not using the item anyway, so you might as well have no items. But that's why I say I think bringing in a flashlight is worse than having no items. Because when you have a flashlight, you want to blind people. When you want to blind people, you're basically following someone that's getting injured or getting chased, which means you're not doing a generator, which means the killer is freely occupying multiple people for nothing. And all the killer has to do is just bait the pickup. He just waits over the body for a second, finds when you pop out, and just chases you instead now. Now he's got more pressure for free. Instead, also, he can just turn around and pick up once he sees where you are. Flashlights are very not effective. And in fact, at pallets, they make people play worse as well because people will blind you as you're kicking a pallet, which means they're not gaining distance. And then you just can still hear them running away. And then it's just like almost everything that flashlights do are a detriment in the hands of most players. There are some extremely experienced survivors that do good things with flashlights. I have been flashlight saved against. It's not something that's impossible or anything like that, but it is, for the most part, an item I love to see because it means people are not going to be doing gens. They're just going to be running around trying to make a montage and shit like that. So I love seeing flashlights. They're very, very non-threatening to any decent killer that's just simply aware of their surroundings. Buddy, chill. I think that is about it. I will say flashlights for Wraith and Hag obviously are useful, but I still would value these at the bottom because that's just 2 killers out of every killer. And usually you're just going to have a bunch of jackasses that are just very distracted, not doing what they're supposed to be doing. So that is it, guys. Very short video, just a little fun thing. Why not? Haven't uploaded in a couple of days. Haven't been feeling too well, so I thought I would. that is about it. And I'm supposed to do something else. I already passed the 10-minute mark, so now I'm not padding for time anymore. Fuck, every time. Every time I forget. I'm sorry, I'm still new to this Patreon stuff. The video's done. You can stop watching now. I have to look this up. I'm very, very professional. How's the weather? How you guys doing? Right, okay. Silver Siege and Dakota and Sky Blue. You guys are dumb. All right, bye. I'm sorry about that. I'm an idiot.